All right, let's go. We have very little time. Brittany, thank you for your presentation, and thank you for mentioning that you also got involved with SauceCon, with Sauce Labs. We'll mention that today too. As you know, Jason Huggins, who created and founded that company and many other beautiful things, he's here in the audience. This is a very practical, very technical. We are not discussing metrics or charts or anything like that. You covered that well, Brittany. So I'll contrast that and complement that with something surely hands-on. So this, if I go really fast and really intense, there will be a recording of this video available on the InnovateQA YouTube channel. So you will be able to replay and rewatch at your speed, at your convenience later on. So let's jump in. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Do it.
Let's go. So we'll learn today how to set up and configure Appium in 30 minutes. It's a walkthrough guide. We're using Python here just for brevity because it's a very laconic language. We don't have to get verbose with C or Java. That's the reason. So let's jump in. About myself, I've already introduced myself. I'll repeat that real quick. My name is Lana Begunova. I do QA, mostly automation. My official title is a software engineer, engineering test. I work for a startup called Scalable Software Hub in the Bay Area. And working remotely from Seattle, really amazing job. I've already mentioned that I have a non-classical, non-traditional background coming from finance, actuarial science, and political science, but I do love testing, so here we are presenting now. Also, luckily, I got invited by InnovateQA to become a social media lead for the group. Amazing opportunity. I'm glad to be here and be talking to you all. If you want to reach out, you see my LinkedIn account there. Plus, there will be a couple of QR codes at the end so that you could supplement this recording with some other things you can look at later. Let's move on. So, Appium history. Jason Huggins, everyone saw him. Let's cover this real quickly. This is 2012. Appium history. It got made. Tatiana said it's Jason's baby, so this is the baby making process. The first picture, Daniel Pillar, or Dan. He's an amazing, brilliant guy who worked at a dating company, I think, way back when in 2012. This brilliant kid hacked Apple's Instruments app and made accessibility mobile testing possible on mobile devices. Then Daniel brings this idea to the Selenium conference, and Jason picks up on it. Couple months later, he invites Daniel for some beer. They talk it over and they merge Selenium and this new hack. Basically, the hack was you could inject JavaScript and it opened a highway for many possibilities. Now, another brilliant guy jumps on the train, Jonathan Lips. He he takes the Selenium with this new hack and writes native iOS and Android drivers. And that makes Appium happen. Why I'm saying Selenium? Because the name was Selenium for mobile apps and hence Appium. Okay, moving on. A bit more about Appium. Appium is an open source tool for automating mobile apps and devices for both Android and iOS. But besides that, you can also automate TV platforms. There's like at least a few TV drivers out there, potentially automation. Auto industry like cars automation. It supports a wide range of language bindings, Java, Ruby, you name it. I'm tinkering with Java mostly for the Selenium BiDi stuff, bidirectional stuff, because it's just more developed at the moment. For Appium, I love Python. Many reasons why, you can ask me later. Also, just FYI, Appium is sort of an extension or a wrapper of Selenium. So whenever you're using this tool, by default, you're already, you have access to all the standardized, protocolized W3C level tools that Selenium WebDriver is using. So you get that with Appium as well. Appium, as I mentioned, can automate, it's cross-platform, can automate Androids, iOS simulators, emulators, real devices, TVs, you name it. By default, what I've just said means that native, hybrid, and mobile web application support is available. So basically, you take your phone and you know that you got all sorts of mobile apps, such as native apps, hybrid apps that combine the web components, and then you just got web sites that you got to test on mobiles, and that's mobile web software testing. You can ask me later also if you have any more questions about that. Appium, just like Selenium and many other tools, of course, it's not exclusive, but they're convenient because they are compatible with test runners like TestNG, PyTest, JUnit, any tool you use with your language binding, any test runner. So basic prerequisites for Appium installation. We need Node.js, surprise, surprise, because I think the Appium server itself is written in JavaScript. So here we go. Even though my client script will be in Python, it still does mean that you'll need to install Java on your computer, on your host machine, and the Appium server and Selenium servers are written in JavaScript. So, it's a bunch. But that's the reason for this presentation, so that you could go step by step. A little disclaimer before you get to Node.js part. If you're doing Android, then you may know it, but forgive me for repeating if it's obvious. You may need an Android Studio or some ADB stuff already connected and hooked up. For iPhones or even some iOS simulators, you are probably not going to avoid installing Xcode and provisioning and signing your applications. So for Android Studio, for iPhones, you would need Xcode. At the end of the presentation, I'll have a link and a QR bar to 20 plus articles. It's a list I'm curating for Appium in Python specifically. The first two articles in that list will unfurl or have more details that are crammed into this half-an-hour session now. So at your leisure, you can go and tinker around with it and geek out and read on it. So again, at the end, a link, QR, Node. Let's get back to Node. We are installing Node. The basic commands are node-v or npm-v. When to confirm that that's installed, you can run it from your terminal, bash, zish, whatever you got. If Node is not installed, obviously on Mac OS, there's a command. Some of you are familiar with Homebrew. In that same context, you can use the brew command to install Node. On Windows, slightly different. You go to Node.js, download it. Again, if something is unclear now, it's so very, very clearly written out in the articles that I'm gonna link in the end. So again, at your leisure later, geek out, read up on it. Be my guest. Now let's move on to installing Appium. First of all, we need to check what we got. So we'll use our terminal, or you may have the terminal running in your IDE or a separate terminal Windows session, like I said, zish or bash, whatever you got. In that window, in the terminal window, run the command npm info appium dist dash tags. This lists all the available versions of Appium as of now. These numbers, these versions may not look exactly accurate at the time you're watching this. Make sure you use and look at your own terminal output and orient yourself around your own numbers. So it may, the latest version is not 2.2.1 now, it may be a little higher, but these are simple technical things that I think any developer or tester kind of has an intuition around, but I'll mentioning it just in case that's unclear. Now, next step is to install the latest Appium version. Now that we know what's the latest, we go ahead and use the npm command to install it. We use command npm install -g Appium at latest if you want latest. If you want beta, you do at beta. If you want next, you do at next. All the stuff that is on the left-hand side, you can install that. -G means global installation. You can adjust that if you don't want globals. Moving on. Now that we've installed Appium, we can verify whether it's installed or not. Very simple command. Again, open your terminal, run Appium, and that launches the Appium server, and you start seeing the logs. The expected outcome would be that the Appium version is displayed. Let me see. Okay, here's the mouse. I'll try to point to it, but it's right here. Appium version. You would see that in your console output too. Then service stats. Start listening on a port. You see right here, 4723. That's the remote port that Appium server connects to and starts running on. Initially, we have no drivers installed, no drivers. So let's move on. Let's get them installed. Installing the required drivers. As I mentioned before, you may have a lot of drivers. You may even want to, like I said, automate a TV with Appium. A lot of things are possible. Today, we're focusing only on two drivers, native driver for iOS and native driver for Android. Those are called respectively XCUI test and UI automator 2. In order to find out what drivers we got, we run the command Appium driver list. You see they're all listed here. We are interested in the first two. So in order to install the iOS driver, XCUI test driver, we run the command Appium driver install XCUI test, and you would get a success confirmation here. We do the same thing with Android UI Automator 2 driver. We go ahead and install it with the Appium driver command, confirm that it's installed, and move on. Next slide. To verify the installed drivers, not that we have them. Simple command that we can run in terminal is Appium driver list, and it lists these drivers that were previously showing as not installed. XCUI test and UI Automator 2 are now installed. So we're happy, and hence we're ready to move on again. In case you have issues, every tech has issues, has troubles. The reason I pointed out the necessity for Xcode on iOS and Android Studio for Android is because if you don't have them, you'll have errors, and they're listed here. Basically, with XCUI test driver, you will definitely have errors if you do not have the correct version of Xcode. So, kind of read up on it and get that figured out. With the Android Studio, again, most likely you won't be able to hook into the ADB command line that you would need to work with Androids later, sooner or later anyways, especially on real devices. That gets even more complicated. Just as heads up, I'll have a couple of recorded video demos for both drivers, Android and iOS. And there will be another recording at the very end that will help you to probably onboard all of this stuff, not in 30 minutes, but in 3. So we could, have an 10 times efficiency. Let's move on. To configure our first iOS session, I mentioned we're using Python simply for brevity because it would be too long to explain and show it in Java. I do love Java, by the way. Just for the demo, let's keep it short. So a Python file, you can create it through the IDE, or if you're just in your directory, you can click create new file and move on with that. In the file, when it opens in the IDE or whatnot, we need to hook the path of the application under test into this variable. So you would want to type that out and assign a variable that represents the path of the application under test. I'm giving you a little hint here to probably use the OS library to make this code more usable, convertible, and maintainable in the future. Typically in the demos, you see app equals quote unquote and a string of an absolute path for the app. It's acceptable, but in the long term, especially when you start scaling it, it kind of becomes a little bit immature. So I recommend for the long term to stick to this path strategy where you know what your current path is, and dancing off of it, you can already hook up to the other files and directories based on where you're located in your directory right now. Now, the capabilities are basically unavoidable to set up a session, iOS or Android. There are 5 required capabilities, 5. We cannot avoid them. So the first one, platform name. By the way, I'm using Python dictionary. Another reason I like Python is because I just can, drop it all in a dictionary and then do whatever I want with it. Anyways, the first one, platform name, our iOS. Surprise, surprise. As I mentioned, we're extending the W3C Selenium WebDriver capabilities here. And this particular first platform name capability comes from W3C WebDriver specs. The next 4, so again, surprise, surprise, prefix with Appium. Don't forget to do that, right? The Appium capabilities are platform name, device name, automation name, and the app. Remember the path to the app that I was talking about right here? Yeah, that's the app that we pass along here. Or if you want to be lazy, like I said, for the beginners and just demo purposes, you can pass in a string that leads to your in quotes, that leads to your app for the starters, if that helps you. Now let's try to start an iOS session. For that, we need to do some imports in the same file that we had open before, the Python file. We would import the Appium WebDriver. Then we would this command right here, driver, WebDriver remote, is basically the same thing you would do in Selenium or any other web automation tool where you instantiate a session. So by instantiating a driver object here, we officially open the session. Driver equals something something means that the session is open. To close that session, a lot of driver.close, or avoid that because .quit command is the one that closes the session effectively at the end, avoiding any zombie sessions floating around and avoiding any, waste of resources. So simple thing, do remember to quit the session. So if you're a tester, between driver instantiation and driver closure, so session starts, session ends. In between here is where your actual test steps or test cases will go. The point of this particular presentation is not to teach you how to write your tests. I'm sure you all know that better than me even, but how to start, quit, and verify that you yourself are capable of launching an Appium session on your computer. And if you've never done that before, that definitely would feel like an achievement. Another little thing is that the Appium server is typically hosted on port 4723, and Jason Huggins, has a great sense of humor. He explains to us all that it actually spells out iPad on a keypad. And thank you, Jason. Now we all know, because I do keep getting questions. So what does 4723 mean? Now everyone knows. Moving on. Testing the iOS session. We got that script ready, our Python file sessions_ios.py ready. We put the commands for opening a session. We put the command for quitting the session. Like I said, I'm leaving it up to you to put all your steps in between the start and the quit, the the closure of the session. That's not the test steps are not the intent of the session. If you want to know, to have a better know-how, again, link in the, will be in the end with a QR code with some articles that you can geek out on. So in order to run the file that we got ready now, the Python file, you're right, we're ready to start and quit the session. We can go to the terminal window and run Python 3 sessions ios.py. Python is also is a language that let's say if you have Python bindings on Mac, you would not need a 3 after Python. On a Mac, like on a Windows, for example, if you are on a Mac, add the 3 because Macs come preloaded with Python 2, I believe, automatically, and it may need an explicit right direction to no, they
no
don't
longer.
anymore. But okay, I may be a little bit.
But it still gets confused many times. I've seen
Right.
between 2.7 and 3.4, it's the Python path is always like still like
Right.
yeah.
I need to sort that out. I know we need to add a 3, but
Right.
obviously.
Once Python 2 gets fully deprecated from the Python community, it all should be Python 3.
Okay.
But I usually add Python 3 if I remember to do that.
Yeah.
If I don't
Okay, I'll nerd out with you too slightly later, but everyone got the gist. Mount Mac Python 3, we get going, and the only thing we write after that is the name of the script file, in this case, the Python file that you want to run. On a Windows, for example, you would run Python without the 3 sessions underscore blah, 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 your file name. So the expected output, oops, pardon me, I skipped ahead. The expected output would be is that when we're going to run this session now, there will be a pre-recorded demo really quick. We will see an IDE on one hand with the client script. I will launch my script from there with the command Python 3 and whatnot. Then we'll see Appium logs running in the middle. Those are launched with the command Appium. This has to be done because we need to start a server side to do anything in this case, because as clients, without that, we'll be sending commands into nowhere, into a black hole. No one wants that. No one got time for that. So then you will see an simulator, iOS simulator popping up on the screen, and you'll see how the client server architecture is working lifetime. Let's get into that. So this is iOS simulator. We have our capabilities here that we discussed. Just FYI, I do have an extra capability, show X code logs in there. This is arbitrary. I just put it there because I do like seeing a lot of logs. When we have here is driver instantiation, starting the session, and then driver quit. That's it. Driver start, driver quit. The rest in between is yours. Run away with it and type in your steps, all the before and afters, and annotation tests, whatever you want to do, or mark it with your PyTest, whatever you like. Let's launch it. So like I said, we have the client side here, the IDE, Appium logs are running here. If any of it is a little blurry, again, you'll have a chance to watch this recording and you'll have a link to this particular presentation where these videos are embedded in the highest quality possible. So I'll give you all at the end. We see the emulator launch. The app under test has installed right here. Now we are waiting for a web driver agent to install. I forgot to mention it. It was written on the previous slide. So basically on an iOS, we end up installing not two iOS apps. One is your actual AUT. The other one is right there. I think, hold on. This is the web driver agent that just got installed. So we end up with 2 applications on iOS, simulator a real device no matter what. You will not see this on Android. A web driver agent is actually a Facebook or a Meta app that, open source folks hacked as usual. So it's really useful. It's needed for Apple, but it sometimes may be mundane to figure out what to do with it, how to configure it. On real iOS devices, you'll actually have to provision additional capabilities in order to get your AUT and the WebDriver agent going on the device before you even start seeing your app. So now that these two beauties are installed, I think the app will pop up real quick. Let's see, it should. Oh, here's the simulator. It started from the beginning, I believe. It's okay. It will go fast. By the way, this iOS demo recording is a minute long. Do not get surprised if you spend 3 to 5 minutes or about so launching your first like simulator or iOS session, because there, right, you need something to boot it up.
Establish and boot it up, the connection to the emulator and ports. And
Right. So second and ongoing sessions will already be warm, running in like the warm mode. They'll be all booted up. So this took me like 3-something minutes. I had to speed this up for you. So this is sped up at least 2 times at least. Okay, I missed the app showing up, but you saw it. It blinked real quick on the screen. It quit, and that when that quit, that actually corresponded to this driver.quit command. And let's move on. And okay, hold on. Android. Done with iOS. So what we could do, we could cheat a little. We could take the previous file from iOS, copy it, and just adjust the stuff in it for the Android. So I have mentioned the app path before. Here, you may notice, surprise, surprise, the extension is .apk for Android. And that distinctly tells you we are not using iOS anymore. Capabilities right here. 5 mandatory capabilities, just as with iOS. The first one is the W3C Selenium WebDriver capability that Android extends. The rest 4 are the actual, the Appium extends. The next 4 are the actual Appium capabilities as again. Make sure you get the correct platform version, not for iOS or Android this time. The device name, right? If it's an emulator, and it's an emulator. If it's a real device, it's a whole other beast. You would need adding on like real device UDIDs and stuff like that. Automation name, UI Automator 2, because it's an Android driver. Before we had XCUI test for iOS. And I won't repeat myself. You already know what this app is. It's a path to your AUT that you need to provide to the Appium driver. Moving on. These will be easier now because this is almost like a repetition of what we've already covered with iOS. You would wanna, for Android or not, but still import your Appium WebDriver. This command again, driver, instantiates the session. So this is essentially driver.start, metaphorically speaking. Again, we see the closure of the session with the command driver.quit. And again, in between here, are your test steps. I'm not giving them to you, as I mentioned. Now let's run the Android session. We have our Python file ready. We can run it through the terminal again. I've already mentioned the difference between Python and Python 3 on Windows and Macs. So since I'm working on Mac, you will be seeing these 3s in here. Here's our command that we would run in the terminal. Basically, it's the Python command and then the name of the file. Hit enter and it should work. The expected output would be that the emulator would start, the app would appear, and once the session ends, it will disappear. The demo, it will be almost identical to the iOS. It won't involve WDA or web driver agent installation. And even when you compare it to iOS, your first Android session is pretty fast. So this has not been sped up. This is like 30 something seconds compared to 3 something minutes I had to like shortcut to present to you. So let's run this Android demo. This will be like self-explanatory after what we've done before. Our capabilities are here, Android related, right? Adjusted for Android. We start the session with the driver. We quit the session. That's it. This is my terminal in the IDE. The already mentioned Python 3 command followed by the file name. Let's watch what happens. So, right, just also a little reiteration of the architecture here. Client side, right? Client script we got here. Server side right here. Very typical, scalable client server architecture, whether it's in Selenium WebDriver, Appium WebDriver, and it would also apply to Valet that we are getting to. It is simple JSON wire over HTTP. So if you hear client server, this is what you're seeing. Client server device under test. So if you could envision, like put it in practical envisionment, this is like the way I do it. Now, what do we got? Hold on, guys. Something's happening with my slides. Hold on. Guys, bear with me. Something's happening with my slides.
I think there is a small button. If you go next, I think give access or something. Go back. Go next to the blank slide.
Which corner?
Just go next. Just go next.
And
just wait. See top left. The blue button.
oh,
I think it might be access thing.
well,
But it was working.
right. Hold on. You know what? Is this where we were?
That's the one. Oh, you clicked it. Yeah, there should be the right one. Try to reload it.
Guys, sorry for the technical difficulties. We're gonna try again. I think it's just like some network stuff. I don't think it's like,
Yeah, see there.
I ran through it a million times in the last week. This should work. Bear with me. Sorry for the everything. Okay. But we did watch Android. Thank you, Tatiana. We did watch the Android session again. If something isn't clear, watch at your own speed later. We'll provide everything. So in order, because we're only covering fundamentals in the Appium startup session, there are some additional features, best practices, tips and tricks, whatever you want to call it, that you would want to know. Some obvious things that you would apply in any I guess, automation scripting. You would need to deal with custom weight strategies, reminder, explicit weighting strategies and fluent ones are the best ones. You can, I'm providing you with a QR code and a link to the list of the articles that are outlining it all in detail. There is almost like a separate article or a blog post for every single point. Another thing is that you would probably need to sort out your strategies for an instant app state setup. Once you're comfortable with the fundamentals, you would want to start using bundle IDs on iOS instead of the direct path to your app under test. You would also probably on Android start using app package names. So it takes knowing the under the hood of Androids and iOS a little bit to get that started, but I did my best to write that out for you. Scan the code, go to the link, you can read and read that. And of course, the obvious things, locator strategies and selectors, know your locators, know your selectors, use IDs or accessibility IDs if you have them. Don't use class names, preferably. I have also like a multi-page article on that. So let's save time and move on. And again, the article, scan QR code, go to the link, you'll get it. Okay, Let's hope this works, right? Common issues and troubleshooting, just like with any tool or device or framework or technology, there are always issues. That's why we testers exist. We fix and debug this stuff, whatever it is. Anyways, so if you are especially working with real devices, right, you need to hook it up to your host machine from which you're driving your client script. You would or where the server is running. Like, I'm not going to get into the details of underlying like more complex architectures, but one thing for sure is get the cable, your phone cable. Know what type of cable it is, get it plugged in, follow like Android developers or Apple developers instructions. And again, I've written that out if you don't want to follow, so that you get your device 100% connected to the machine through either the physical cable or through Wi-Fi. You know, if Wi-Fi may be a little flaky, you know, the more solid the cable, even the internet has those huge cables running on the bottom of the ocean. So, you know, we need reliable stuff sometimes. So I recommend a cable, not Wi-Fi, but it's up to you. Appium logs are a savior. You saw those server logs running like in the middle section of the screen of both presentations that I've shown you. The Appium server logs. It's a lot. It's a lot for the first timer, but visually, the more you stare at it, the more you get acquainted. There are some key points in the beginning of the logs, in the middle, and in the end that will like make things click for you to understand what happened, where and why, and where something took a detour. Again, a full article on logging and how to trace the key information in those logs is in the articles. Moving on. The array, our bonus, hopefully 3-minute section, we'll try to squeeze ourselves into it. So I've talked about Appium a lot. You know, Jason Huggins is in the audience. He is now working with robots. He's been doing that for about 10 years or so. A lot of it has been about physical robots that have like metal arms and scaffolding and motors and rotors. Jason has gone beyond that recently. Now we have a virtual robot, not a physical robot, that can help you with your mobile test automation. So the idea is that instead of 30 minutes that I've given you or shown you a setup session, you can get your mobile devices onboarded in 3 or less minutes. The idea is plug and play, but that's the next slide. We have 2 types of visual robots that can help you literally take your physical real device, Android or Apple, plug it into this thing and start automating. You could do, I think we'll have a presentation in May to unfurl these few slides and have a full-on demo with the Valet Link model of Valet by Tapster. Real quick, difference between Valet Link and these are basically the same thing. So one looks prettier, right? It's more compact. It's the size of a brick approximately. The other one is bigger. It's more like a shoebox, but they function, the underlying functionality is the same. Because we are working with computer vision, you don't see it here, but on Valet Vision, there is like a camera under, you see the green thing? The green thing is a Raspberry Pi. I forgot to mention this runs on a little computer called Raspberry Pi, right? So either version, but here it's visible, and underneath, not visible, there is a camera that's looking down at the phone and takes the feed, the video feed off the real device screen that way. So Valet Link, they're again by functionally generally the same. Valet Link is because we can link into the phone without the physical camera. We can just throw it away and hook up with HDMI cable into the device. and get that going, the plug and play scenario. So the only difference that you would need to know is if you have a phone and you want to play with this, look at your phone specs and detect if your real device has an HDMI out USB-C/display capability. Basically, if you got the right cord or not to plug in. Most contemporary high-end iPhones and Samsungs don't need a camera because you got that HDMI out already. This is a 2019 feature that Apple quietly kind of rolled out that made this possible in terms of automating fake mouse keyboard events, basically, because most of automation is about clicks and taps anyways. And this is the big part, the big chunk that that Valet is trying to automate. This is not a new idea for those of you who have been tinkering with computer vision or whatnot. By the way, just a disclaimer, I don't have time to be reading the chat comments at the moment. I'm focusing on presenting. So if anyone can take care of that, that would be amazing. Jason, I think you were doing something. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, sorry. I just wanted to make sure everyone gets enough attention. Okay, so Valet is not a new concept. If you've been tinkering with computer vision, this is basically, I may quote Jason here now with some paraphrasing. This is an automation alternative to the computer vision AI-based testing approaches that we are all seeing these days, especially like agentic AI, all these browser agents that you're seeing left and right. Anyways, this is a good alternative, let me tell you, right? I'm doing this for the third time, but if you've done any, if you're geeky enough and you've done computer vision, then this is a new concept. Similar things have been done before with protocols known as KVM over IP. Some open source projects have been built using that protocol, such as PyKVM or Tiny Pilot. So officially, this makes Valet metaphorically or literally speaking, we'll sort that out, a PyKVM for mobile. Moving on. I said plug and play like 5 times, right?
Running into the questions time, so we have 10 minutes.
I literally need 2 minutes. Yeah. So plug and play, I mentioned that. We'll be focusing on the Valet link without the camera, with the HDMI, for the phones that have HDMI out capacity, right? As I mentioned before, literally you take your Android phone or an iPhone, you plug it into this thing, you hook up the wire, and you're ready to go. Under the hood, I've already mentioned that by default, WebDriver is a W3C standard. Appium extends that, and under the hood, if you're looking at the logs, we are not seeing driver.start, driver.quit, driver.get, or anything like that. The API calls look like this. So an actual Appium support for Valet is in progress. It is being written or will be written soon. So the only thing that needs to be, or let's say the key thing on the Appium side that needs to be done is we just need to rewrite these URL endpoints to make sure they're standardized. Like, the WebDriver has, like WebDriver commands, Appium would have an Appium prefix here, and Valet is looking like that. This is just to emphasize that it is the good old super scalable client server architecture with JSON wire, with JSON packets going over HTTP. Most of you are familiar with the protocol if you've done any automation with any tool. Okay, so this is the Valet link. I'm focusing on Valet link for the more contemporary phones because most likely this is the version we'll be presenting at a live demo in May at an InnovateQA meetup. So stay tuned. Hopefully with a live thing, with an actual physical thing that you'll be able to get handsy on and actually touch and feel and see for yourself what that is. I'm not gonna read out the hardware stack. You can read it later. There will be a link to this section, right? As I mentioned before, this is more or less a repetition or a conclusion to this. This is not, Valet is complementary to anything that's out there, especially to Appium, because, well, the creator is the same guy, right? So I shouldn't explain more. But it can make your things, your mobile automation onboarding much faster, more efficient. And speaking in numbers, you could cut down 30 minutes that I've presented down to 3 minutes with Valet. This is a work in progress. There's still a lot to be done, but here is Jason's presentation. I probably won't have time to explain all in detail. This is, hold on. This is, yes, this is the actual live video feed that is captured off the device screen. This is not a simulator, this is a real device. These are web server logs that are running on Raspberry Pi. This is the client script in a terminal running. Again, we have client server architecture. These are pre-processed images that are being matched up to this as a template. And this is just a grayscale version of the image. It's all driven by the computer vision underneath. There's some OCR libraries in there too. Basically, we are looking at the screen and trying to detect a certain image, crop it out maybe, or a certain piece of text to automate a native calculator app without, let me just run it while I'm finishing again so that you can, to automate a native app on a real device without much pre-config or setup or device provisioning or ADB switch on or Xcode stuff. So we are not working with the DOM. In this demo, this is Jason's recording. He doesn't have access to the typical document object model. This is all computer vision based. So we're reading off pixels off the screen and making sure they match. Every green line there, sharp, bright green line, is a match. There is a match. The vision, the thing draws a line when there is. When we're fighting matches, the test passes. It's versus look, the whole test is adding 12 plus 22 equals 34. 34, inside joke, is the selenium element number. So that's why Jason chose it. And this is a wrap up. We can't do more in such little time. There will be a full meetup for Valet specifically, hosted by InnovateQA in the same room, also online in May. So I believe this is it. I'm trying to skip to the, hold on. If you want to reach out to me with any questions, you can. I gave you a LinkedIn at the beginning. You can also reach out to Jason Huggins directly at either socials, at Hugs, or he's also receiving emails at tapster.io. Or reach out to any InnovateQA team member. They'll get you connected. And this is a link to this entire presentation. That's the wrap, guys. We're done. Woo!
Thank you.
Lana, we're a little bit over time, so thank you all for staying with us. Do we have questions in the room or online?
Yeah, we have one hands up.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Indeed.
Yep,
Go ahead.
please unmute and go ahead.
This is Worsen.
Wendy, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry. Nope. That was an accident.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Actually, I have a comment. I've been reading your Medium articles for a long time. I'm surprised is you're the same person looking at the QR code. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
And-
Nice to meet you.
I'm ecstatic right now. It's
Right,
it's
yeah, I don't know, it's the same person.
Go ahead. I'm curious. I got a fan.
Actually, to give you the background, that was the reason we said, Lana, you're already doing such a great work on medium.com. Why don't you come
Right.
and speak about, you have 28, 30 crazy articles.
Very, very, clear.
Yeah. Just this
Yeah.
morning, I was reading an article about
You should have a paid version of that.
Yeah, about best practices and stuff. So great work there. And also, I can see you have a fantastic experience. Like usually this takes about 2-3 hours of like online learning, and in 30 minutes you were able to like quickly put everything together. And it was a very good refresher for me, and I'm sure everyone here will feel confident if they have not done any automation
Yeah.
before. I feel like this presentation would be a fantastic point for them to start with. And finally, a shout out for Jason as well. I had a fantastic chance to meet him in Selenium 2023. I was fortunate to meet him in person, where he actually demoed the robotic software that they was coming up with. And so super excited for the Innovate 2025. And I'm sure that will be an entertaining presentation. I encourage you all to be tuned around what's coming up with Vale. That's such a nice name for the project.
Right?
So looking forward to it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, the trick is that it could have been other names, but similar to how WebDriver, Selenium WebDriver drives your or automates
yeah.
your browsers, right? Valet valets your phones, your mobile. I even think of a presentation in May, something like plug and play valet all day. It kind of rhymes. Yeah.
And I think Jason shared the explanation behind ballet.
He
I
did?
wrote it down. He
Could you
said
help
it's
me
a hold on. Classy way to drive your phone.
Oh, there we go. From him himself. Yes.
Yeah,
So I
sorry.
have
This was becoming kind of the director's commentary on the chat while you were talking. Sorry for the distraction. I hope that wasn't
No.
distracting to everybody.
We need you
Anyway.
here because the more ballet things are coming both in May. We'll have a full meetup, as I mentioned, and Jason himself will, roll down from his Olympus in Chicago. We are all happy to see you we'll be seeing you in Seattle. So anyone who's interested, guys, right? Try to make it here in Seattle, either in May, preferably in June for the full conference, so that you could geek out and get your hands on the actual thing. That would be your chance. We're doing everything we can to provide opportunities for those interested to actually, see it and play with it.
Yeah.
Also, I should probably mention. Oh yeah, go ahead. Hold on.
I do have a question for you, Jason. I probably will add the statement on that. So we had Selenium, we have Appium, we have Appium on cloud. Now we have LA. Like, where does it really fit, and how you think people would get the right education about it?
I don't know yet. I think sorry, that's the quick answer.
That's fine.
The way I look at it is, and this is why actually I reached out to Lana when I saw she was giving the talk. My original hook to talk with her about this was like getting Appium. I think when I first I got back into Appium Dev a year or so ago, and it took me like half a day to install and get everything set up. I think specifically testing on real devices is really painful. It's mostly because like it's that spectrum of like what's good for security is bad for automation, and what's good for automation is usually bad for security, right? So it's hard to hook up a real device and automate it because Apple has made you jump through so many hoops. And so therefore the Appium install, half of the difficulty is just because of that, right? And so Lana's streamlined it quite a bit. And then the goal with Valet is like literally plug and play. So part of it is because you're using accessibility on the iOS side. So it's literally just driving the device the way a person would, either looking at it and just using computer vision to look at the screen, or then using touch or keyboard events. That's one part of it. So it's just like simple inputs. The other part of it is pre-installing everything on the Pi. So it's kind of like in the old days of buying a computer, you had to spend this is like, no one in the room remembers this, but the back in the day, you bought a computer and you had to spend half a day installing the operating system on there. Now that doesn't happen. You just get the laptop and boom, it's just a welcome screen, right? So the idea would be to get to that. Ironically, we don't have that in testing. Kind of like you turn on the device and you get a welcome screen, basically get to 3 minutes from automation instead of 30 minutes, right? And so there's this kind of aspect of just in that regard, it's complementary to Appium, or should be. anyway, the other part of it is I can't remember if I put this in one of my color commentary things. I reserve the right to call some other project that come up with, like, everyone talks about the AI question, right? So I reserve the right, if Appium was Selenium for apps, the next thing would be Cranium, I think is what I'm what I'll like, whenever I figure out what the AI part of all of this stuff is, I'll call that Cranium. But in this particular case, Valet was meant, I've been spending time just focusing on mobile automation this whole time with robots, and Valet is really kind of the end of that journey of figuring out the kind of, ideally, like, the easiest way to automate it. Anyway, I know you're kind of out of time here, so I should not keep talking. Anyway.
Are you guys okay if we extend our question time to 5 more minutes since we have Jason?
I think Brittany is really has some very interesting questions.
Brittany, if you have a question.
Has to go through.
Jason, you just added so much excitement. People want to talk.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So Lana, great job. Jason, you're really funny. I can't wait to hear you more in May.
And I got to see the most of your
The
talk there, so
presentation?
good job with that as well. So
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
Yes, thank you, Brittany.
Okay. So my question was for Valet, and I know you will talk about this more in May, but I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it. Is it something that you see an individual tester using? Like, I work from home, so is that something I would have here, or is it more for a group of a QA team in a big organization, and they have that physical device there? And okay, maybe answer that one first, and then I'll ask.
So you asked if it's like an either or, individual or small team. I guess my joke answer is like yes. I think the way we're originally been on quite a journey in the last month. I announced something last month, like a very large scale idea of getting like every phone on the planet is going to be plugged into one of these things, right? But how do you bootstrap? They call it the cold start problem. Like, how do you actually get? You can't get to 1 billion until you get 1 to 10 and 100. The idea would be to get small teams. It's kind of like everyone already has a phone. I bet, I'm counting up the number of people in the room. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's going to be 8 mobile phones in that room, guaranteed, right? Right.
Yeah.
So no matter what cloud service exists, so there you go. No matter what cloud service
And 2
exists,
more at home.
you'll always have a phone on you. And so if you're a team of 10, or 2 to 10, let's
I
say,
didn't bring the
and
computer,
you basically, like, if you're a small team, you already have like a little mini device cloud, but no one's figured out how to like kind of network those, just the phones that you have amongst your teammates together. And so there's this kind of idea of, if you're familiar with like Tailscale or WireGuard, where you could create a little small secure network of like your own little private VPN of just your teammates. The idea would be potentially, and maybe not your primary driver. It's kind of assuming that you have a second test device, like Lana's holding up 2 phones. So maybe you have one dedicated to testing that maybe
it is. It's waiting for Valet.
right. So maybe like if you're in one city and your teammate is in a different city, let's say you have an iPhone and your teammate has an Android, you can both plug these things into it, and then you could do a test on their phone. They could do a test on your phone, and you would have a secure network, kind of like, it's almost like a little mini cloud of just your devices. And again, it's one of those things of like, it's not an either or, it's more of a both and. You'll probably still use a cloud service, but it's kind of like the reality is everyone's going to have their own phone anyway, and we're trying to find a way to kind of get use out of that. And so there's a lot of different strategies and tactics that we're still figuring out on how to actually do that. One big thing I have to do is drive the cost of this thing like way down to the ground, so then so that's not a blocker. It's already expensive to buy a phone, so I don't want it to be even more expensive to do it. I think there's probably some other version of this down the road that it could just be an app that's running on your phone, maybe. But right now, having it be this kind of minimal circuit board is kind of where I'm at now. I don't know.
Makes
kind
sense.
of like
Yeah.
where I'm like, the first Apple computer was pretty ugly. It wasn't even a computer. They just sold the circuit board, right? If you see an original Apple computer on eBay, it's because someone literally built a wooden box around it. This is kind of the ugly wooden box version of this stuff. But the goal is, though, to just make mobile testing just like plug and play, right? Because right now the setup required, there's a lot. Even though Lana has done an amazing job being very good about detailing every little bit of that. So I do not want to take away from that at all. That effectively is the blueprint and like the template for kind of getting all those bits installed into some operating system. And then so it's kind
Jason,
of ready to go.
we have one more question. We have one more hand raised. Ying, did you want to ask a question? We can't hear you. You are on mute.
Thank you.
Jason, can you fix the clicker on your headphone?
Oh shoot!
Yeah, that's same
Sorry,
thing.
I keep doing that. There you go. Right, so it keeps scratching. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I just want to take a minute to thank the InnovateQA organization for kind of co-hosting this with the Pacific Northwest Software Quality Conference. I'm on the board of the Pacific Northwest Software Quality Conference.
Oh,
It's an
Awesome.
Oregon-based
Awesome.
nonprofit. Our conference is held annually in October, and we really appreciate this opportunity to learn from you guys in this very informative event. I joined a little bit late. I don't know if any of our folks try to say a word or two. Jeremy Elmwood, who was the one that organized this with some of your board members, I think. And
100%. Yeah.
yeah. We already
Yeah.
discussed all of the PNSQC in the beginning and the InnovateQA and the differences. So super happy to partner with you, Fox. And Jeremy gave us all the pitch, for the conference and for the open applications. Did you have any other questions for Jason?
no technical question, just my appreciation on behalf of the board.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Last question, or do we end this?
Last chance, last call.
Last call.
No?
Hey, is somebody trying to unmute? Kelly? Is it
Kathy.
Kathy?
Kathy? Kathy?
Oh, no, I was I was just preparing for at the end. I was just going to say thank you. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you very much.
It's great. It's great to hang out with a bunch of QA people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how much quality love we've got today, and how many, we have Jason, we have PNSQC, we have the board members from PNSQC, we have
John Bach is here.
we saw John Bach.
Yeah.
We had amazing presentations, so I'm loving this. So like Lana said, in May we're gonna have another cool demo of the Valet that I'm looking forward
Pressure
to.
is on.
I learned robotics in 5 days.
We also have 2 virtual sessions in April and May. Check this out on our Meetup. Jeremy, we're gonna wrap this up. Did you want to say anything else? Do we still have
No,
Jeremy?
just that next month's event, if John briefly mentioned, is a bug bash testathon, so that's going to be really exciting. And Tatiana and I are going to partner up again to host that. It will be in person both in Seattle and Portland. I will post the details on Meetup for both of our groups very shortly in the next few days or so, and we really look forward to having you all come out if you're able to make it. It'll be Monday, April 21st in the evening, starting around 6.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. Yep.
Look forward to that.
Sorry to cut everyone short. Jason, we wish we could speak to you for 2 more hours here, but we are going to get kicked out of this room in probably 5-10 minutes. So I wanted to make sure that we can wrap everything up. Thanks a lot.